Well, afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. What a day. Today was actually a pretty nice day. I think we all woke up to a beautiful market this morning. So I think that was one thing that was pretty interesting. Alobo, what's going on, my guy? What a day. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. This afternoon actually is probably more impressive than the actual data itself that we had. But that is just, quite frank, just a blow off. Wow. Up $30 on Netflix right now. That is insane type of price action here this afternoon. Well, I did put out a TikTok video. I don't know if anyone particularly saw it or caught it, if you got notifications on, but I did end up pretty much anticipating that Netflix will make a move up towards 282. Why would I say particularly 282? I mean, right now it is at my lower end of my range that I had was 271. There's a line pretty much right across there right now. But I actually had this particularly basically retesting what was, you want to say, a quote unquote one initial high, particularly a level in which we particularly also based. But just going off historically, this was where we put in a particularly, I want to say, your all-time high at that point when this stock really started to really take off, and that was pushing into that 271 level. So that's where I was looking at for my initial price target at the beginning. But then also looking at the little base here that we kind of floated off of, we had major peaks, we had resting points, reversals that took place for most of 2018. And then we also see 2019, that was particularly the level at that 282 spot where this stock particularly took off. And so we also retested, I want to say close enough to 282. It was about $10 off though. But that 282 spot, that looks like the magnet. That's where we had that initial high. That's where we had the nice little reversals take place. So that's the level that I was watching. If Netflix was going to have any kind of sympathy, any kind of relief further than what we've seen so far, and especially with the fact that I believe they came out with some kind of new type of actual plan in relates to ad promotion. So that was something that I thought for their future, their forward guidance, that would probably play into a factor of this. And so that's what I was just looking to see. All right, if the numbers weren't going to relatively be as well as we expected today, maybe that it would potentially be in terms of their guidance, as they did just roll out new plans. So that was something I think that would lift the spirits across the board. I think coming into this earnings, though, everyone expected it to be terrible. They expected it to be bad. They likely even expected Netflix to lose more subscribers. But I was looking more so towards the guidance because at this point, going into tech earnings right now, into this season, this quarter specifically, right now, across the board, I think it's safe to say that we're all expecting the worst of the worst right now for a lot of these mega cap tech names. But it's not necessarily going to be all about just the numbers for this particular quarter itself. It's going to be for their guidance. So that's what I'm going to look for in a lot of names, not just how I was looking towards a little bit of a relief in Netflix, but I'm looking for the guidance in a lot of these different companies. And that's where I kind of ended up pinpointing that directional move for Netflix to happen when I dropped a TikTok video, I think about 2 hours or so ago, and I was looking for this to make a move up towards 282. As I pretty much dropped on like the last slide of a likely outcome, I was looking for that forward guidance, that forecast to really be what would lift the stock. Did I expect it to be all in one afternoon as we're already up $30 on Netflix? No, I did not. I expected this to kind of trend towards the next coming days as the tech season is just now beginning for the tech earnings, to say that a better term. But it's a good sign. Let's see if we can get a nice little consolidation to tomorrow morning. I would hope that we don't end up gapping up into that 282 resistance by tomorrow morning on the back end of analyst ratings. That's what I would hope because then it's likely a sign that the upside is rather just completed. All one afternoon and going right into pre-market. And as retail traders here, we're not going to have much to go off of for the upside. So if we do end up getting up to the 282 spot tomorrow morning, be cautious. I wouldn't say try to go in to chase it because I don't know how much more upside you have above that 282 level. That's the level I'm anticipating to actually act as a resistance, and that may end up being the ceiling going into tomorrow and for the pretty much the next coming days. All right, but otherwise, if we get any kind of dip opportunity going into tomorrow morning, you already know what the level is, where your upside is that you're potentially watching, and that's about a near $10 upside from what current price is after hours here. All right, so that's pretty much getting into Netflix. I think we'll kind of revisit this, but let's actually see if we can get into futures real quick. Let's see if we can see what's exactly going on with the broader market. So let's actually point out, first thing I want to pretty much make a point of emphasis is looking at our weekly and our daily time frames. All right. AA, you got spanked? Dude, how did you get spanked? What did you do particularly? Let's see, Christina, hello, Drake. Telkus, what's going on, my guy? Christina, Drake, your analysis of Wolf was on target. I appreciate the compliment. I'm definitely glad that it was able to help you. I hope you made hella bank out of that. But that was all on you. You executed that trade. I was just here to give you the level. So congrats on that one, Christina. AA, I have no idea why you got spanked, but if you drop the comments, maybe I could probably tell you what you maybe have done wrong. All right. But let's get into futures real quick. I think better off looking at SPY, honestly. Let's look at SPY. I'm not going to look at futures. I'll look based on right off of SPY, give you a more clear image, clear numbers for most of you that actually do look at SPY. But bigger images, bigger levels to basically just keep in mind as we go into the next few days here, as we already see SPY up about almost a half a percent, you want to say. But I'm looking at the 200 EMA here off of the SPYs on this weekly chart. That is currently sitting at 367.39. So that's a mental note. If the market starts to regress, look to see how we particularly act once we get back down towards that 200 EMA support on the weekly here. So again, that's 367.39 off of the weekly. Now, as we dial down on the time frames here, now let's take a look at the daily. Now, off of the daily here, now we're looking at the 20 EMA. That red line right there that's going across, that was actually what I was looking for when we started to see the market regress. We saw the massive gap up when we all opened our eyes this morning and we're like, holy hell, the market's up a lot, right? Now you're looking for that pullback. Well, that's when you needed to particularly zoom out your chart, look out to the larger time frames. And that's how I was able to kind of identify where we would particularly find support for the day itself was looking towards that 20 EMA. And as we started to pull back for most of the day here, we hit a high of that was roughly 375 half, you want to say. I was looking for the pullback down towards 370. And as you see, the 20 EMA is sitting at 369.85 is what I was watching for. And that's what I was looking for, the intraday reversal going into the end of the day. That's where I wanted to see, all right, had already regressed so much off of the high of the day, off of the massive gap up. Were we going to find support off of that 20 EMA on the daily? And that would give us our intraday reversal. And that's how I think that the market was able to find a nice little ground intraday. And we started to see the reversal as Sig and Dapper basically walked you all through it. All right. Tuggis, appreciate it. A jumped in a put. That was a very bad idea. Well. It actually it depends because what actual time did you jump into a put? And I don't know if you actually are referring to the fact that you said Netflix. If you jumped in a Netflix put, or if you actually jumped into a put for the broader market, right? Lobo Tesla before mañana. I'll take a look at Tesla. I haven't actually examined that chart just yet for Tesla. I'm gonna get there. I'm likely gonna end up dropping a TikTok video again for tomorrow. Let's see if I'm actually right back to back days. I was right on the move for Netflix. Again, did I expect it to all happen in one afternoon? No, I did not. I did not see a $30 move incoming. But let's see if I'm right again tomorrow. If we can predict maybe what the price point is that we're actually looking for. But I'll get there real quick. Just giving you a little bit of a forecast going into tomorrow. I gave you the level, the intraday level that I was watching for support. I do think that's going to be another critical level of support to hold tomorrow. Again, that level was 369.85. That's where we saw the intraday reversal today. Let's look to see if we do have any kind of regression tomorrow. Let's see if we hold 369.85. Otherwise, off of the daily here, I'm looking to basically make a move up towards that 50-day EMA. I do also have a level of resistance and pretty much in confluence of that, and I'm looking for 382.05. So that's my upside target here. As we see that Netflix is likely going to end up continuing to give the market a broader rally here, we'll likely see if we end up having a potential Tesla earnings run up tomorrow. It pretty much the sky is bright right now, all right? I think I'm probably the best term to say it right now. But here's the bigger factor, right? And this is a little bit of looking to the future. I don't necessarily think that our future is going to be that bright once Tesla actually does report earnings. And that's just saying the fact that I haven't even looked at the chart yet. We're about to get to it. But the fact that we end up pushing going into this, we pushed yesterday, we pushed again today in the broader market. Let's see if we actually continue to steamroll on the back end of Tesla's earnings, which I don't think is going to be very nice. All right, so that's SPY. Let's actually, I do want to glance at Netflix. Let's just see what she's actually doing. Holy hell, she's about to hit 282 after hours. God damn. All right, so I do think that the move is likely going to be done then. And that's pretty much sad to say. I do believe that it's going to end up probably trapping a lot of buyers tomorrow. And the reason I say buyers are likely going to end up being trapped is because everyone is going to start to look towards that 200-day EMA that's sitting at 292. Do I believe we're going to make that push towards 292 on like 200-day EMA? I'll be honest with you, no, I do not. All right, that's where my caution would step in. The fact that you're about to open up tomorrow, up about 17, 18% tomorrow, I am very skeptic to say that you're going to end up smacking that 200 EMA tomorrow. So be very cautious about that, is what I would particularly say. Again, 282 was my top end of my target. If you're playing above that 282 to try and get that little $10 window towards the 200-day EMA, I do believe you're playing with fire. I would pretty much very much advise that you wait for a more significant pullback than trying to chase about a $10 move. In fact, this ends up opening at 282 tomorrow. All right, but that is a hell of a goddamn move. My goodness. And I believe again it was more so because of the forecast. Right, that was pretty much, and even on the news alert here, it literally says the forecast on subscribers is really what ended up pretty much being the factor on this. Let's see what the other headline was. Streaming paid net additions total $2.41 million. So I guess that's what the market also did like as well. So the current quarter wasn't as bad as anticipated. But again, that forecast is really why you see the bigger jump than what everyone expected. All right. So that's just pretty much glancing back at that. Now, Lobo, let me see if I can get into Tesla. Let's see what's going on. I'm gonna get dial out towards. First, let's start off with the monthly, because I think we all need to see the bigger picture, right? First thing I can identify off the weekly here, off the monthly, is the head and shoulders. So you do have the monthly head and shoulders that's taking place. If I'm looking in terms of resistance, you're watching 255. If I'm watching support, to pretty much make it very frank in terms of what's being displayed, I'm watching 183 to the downside. If I was literally just going off of the monthly here, honestly, I would particularly say that you're going to see 183.70 to the downside, and you're going to end up making your way down towards that 50 EMA here off of the monthly. Now let's kind of dial into the smaller time frames. Let's get into the weekly now. Let's see where our supports or resistance are right now. Again, you can very well see that head and shoulders has taken place. Your resistance right now, and this is where I think is likely going to end up giving you that swing in terms of direction and how much of an expected move you can look for. Off of the weekly here, I can potentially see if the stock does jump. You're looking at the 100 EMA at 244 if you're looking for potential upside, which is about a near $21 from where we are after hours. Or vice versa, the downside you're looking at is towards 187 at the weekly 200-day EMA. And if you remember off of the monthly, that puts you right around 182. So you can easily wake down that $5 to reach the monthly EMA. So 187 to the downside, 244 to the upside here is where I see the more significant support to resistance ratio. All right. Now, if I was to be honest with you, and this is just me giving you my likely outcome ahead of dropping a TikTok video tomorrow, I would likely favor the fact that we'll likely see this attempt to pop tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. We'll likely see this try to make a push. It'll likely attempt to break north of 235, but I ultimately believe that this is going to end up cracking below 200, and we're likely going to make our way down to this at least this weekly 200 EMA. In which case, we'll look to see if we find support around this 187 mark. That would be where I'm. That's my assumption as of right now. We'll see if it changes by tomorrow once I drop a TikTok video. But as of right now, just looking at this structure, and I'll look more into details of different things, looking to see what the market's exactly anticipating in terms of their actual numbers across the board, their financials, and their forecast potentially that could be in the books. But just looking at the chart itself, the head and shoulders, the upside versus the downside, I believe that you're likely looking towards 187 as your downside target here. All right, and that's what I would favor. All right. Otherwise, let's see what else. Wasn't last Tesla ER positive and how much to pop? Let's see if I can actually give you that idea. Let's see when was their last earnings. So last earnings report was July 22nd was their last earnings. And yes, it was a pop. Just looking at potentially where this was, you're looking at a pop that took place from 251 roughly up towards 275. So that was quite a pop. I think it was about a $27 pop that you ended up having off of that, 21, $22 that ended up popping to the upside. And if you also notice here as well, you were pretty much sandwiched between that 50 EMA and the 100-day off of the daily chart here on Tesla. When it ended up popping, you ended up having the 200-day act as a resistance. Now, this time around, it could go in conjunction with what I'm saying basically, right? Is that I think the 200-day this time around is going to act as a support, but it's more so showing off of the weekly than it is showing off of the daily. All right. So last earnings, you popped up toward the 200-day EMA on the daily. I'm looking for the 200-day on the weekly to act as a support now this time around. All right. So that's pretty much what I'm anticipating. I think it's more. It may end up not necessarily being the forecast that ends up playing the factor, and I haven't done the research just yet on that side. But I think the fact that they're raising prices on cars, we may see a little bit of a no, I want to say a lower tick on terms of demand. We already see the demand being affected with Apple. Not necessarily say it's the same thing, same class that they're in, but I think that the demand is going to be a little bit light into the fact that it's going to end up lowering the overall multiple of what the stock currently trades at. All right. So that's pretty much looking at that. I think everything across the board, if we looked at a lot of different names, we could probably say they're all basically up right now. It's going to be remaining to see tomorrow morning if a lot of these different names are going to stay as elevated as they are. The one thing that actually stood out to me quite a bit today was the semis. And the fact that I say the semis is because a lot of those different names, I saw a lot of puts across the board. That was something that stood out to me. I don't think I want to pretty much prematurely say that they're going to end up dropping just because of the fact that a lot of names right now are up as of right now. But that's not to say that come tomorrow morning, a lot of those names are going to particularly potentially hold their current levels as we see after hours. So that's my major concern right now, trying to go through a lot of these different charts to say that they're going to continue to hold their after hours price action and continue to pretty much rise higher. I'm a little bit more skeptic about that as opposed to maybe the market giving us a pullback and then we likely see Netflix and Tesla run its course and stay elevated. So that's where I'm at right now. And that's why I'm a little bit more hesitant to go and really chart a lot of these different names, especially given the fact that a lot of them are so elevated right now. All right. But other than that, I think that's pretty much what I would say. Obviously, looking at the Netflix earnings was probably the most intriguing thing for our life here today. That was a hell of a pop. I'm glad that my TikTok video is actually correct as of right now. So that is a definitely a plus. We'll see what Tesla does tomorrow. The broader market's going to be another question. Are we going to make our way up towards that 380 mark on SPY? That's going to be a big question mark. Do we continue to see the market just rally here off of what we saw with the nice little gap up? We had a nice pullback already. Let's see another gap up. Let's see Netflix and Tesla really just carry the market tomorrow. And then that'll be the insight of whether Tesla's going to be the one to carry yet again going into Thursday. Going into Thursday, or do they end up being the reason why we see a pretty relatively strong red day? All right. But I think relatively, I will leave today's segment there pretty short and sweet. Not much else, especially with the market just going as crazy as it is, running its course after hours with that Netflix sympathy. But I will leave it there with you guys today. Hopefully, I was able to give you guys a little bit of insight. But again, those of you looking to play earnings, and this is a very big risk in terms of playing earnings, just be mindful about the fact that don't particularly look to see about this quarter specifically, especially those of you that went leaning in towards Netflix being bearish. You have to keep in fact that everyone is already going into tech earnings season, being the fact that they're already looking at everything from a bearish standpoint. What would be the bright standpoint, right? Looking at towards maybe say looking at Apple. We already know the factors already know that their demand is already pretty much clearly just lightened, right? They've already cut production off of the iPhones, and I believe Sig actually dropped that comment, that headline in the actual Tendy shop today. But what could potentially be the bright spot, if any, for Apple? All right. AA, no more earnings for you. I completely agree with that. That's why it is a very big risk. I was particularly a very big gambler in terms of earnings in my recent history. I want to say that, and I could probably throw Tom in that same exact sentence right now as well. But this is where you grow as a trader. You understand pretty much where your risk reward lies. and it's at the end of the day, it's not particularly worth it. If you play here, one there, but your relative overall portfolio is still within a good standing, then you are fine, right? There's times I find myself, I'm like, yeah, I made enough money. All right, here, I'll just throw maybe 100, 200 bucks at an earnings play. That, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But when you're already doing as bad relatively in the stock market itself, whether it's day trading or swing trading, and then you think you're gonna make it all back just trying to do one earnings trip, that's the bad part. That's where you have that bad mentality, and you're gonna dig yourself into a bigger hole. All right. But I think my diatribe is pretty much done. I will conclude today's segment there again. I will see you guys on live tomorrow morning. But you have a great afternoon. Enjoy some basketball as the season now begins. But again, I'll see you guys on live